walk on the coconut walk, what we call, it's a coconut estate. You can cut cane, cut coconuts, pick coconuts, cut cane or do something, but that's not a job you're accustomed to doing, and you can't do it, so you wouldn't have a job. So as he was redeployed, as they call it, he just had to leave. He stayed at home a while, and then he was good at what he did. So he was a land surveyor, and he looked after the housing department. And they asked him to come back and oversee the building of houses and tanks and that sort of thing. Well, there was an American company, Wimpy, and I forget the name of the other one. They employed him first. It was not a government job, but he worked with the government for a while, with Wimpy for a while, until they came away, and then he worked again with the government, overseeing housing and the building of these low-income estates. Well, it wasn't very nice, so my children tried to get us over here. I came over. He didn't want to, but he finally did. So in 1981 we came here after all these years.
So your children came. I'm sorry.
Hmm?
Your children came before you and your husband did?
Oh yes, they came over. Joanne came over first. Studying, she was studying in New York and went to Rutgers. She came over here. She got married, went to Texas, and she got married, came over here. And by that time we were ready to come. We came over.
Shoot my idea.
And
Alright.
that's the way we lived. As I said, my father was a schoolmaster, but they moved him from one village to another. He built up the school in one village. And when that was right and good, they moved him to another one for him to do the same thing. So we traveled from one village, one part of the country. You go to the first place I remember was with the Indians. We lived in not Tapacuna was the first one, Oriala. That was a village of pure Indians. I got to know them. The whole family lived among them. So, you move to another, and several villages we went to, which were very far apart, and different types of people living there. So you just get to know everybody, people who went to school by boat. That was in Tapacuma. And they lived off of what they planted and what they hunted for. They hunt for deer and other animals. I just can't remember offhand. But on lava they called it, and they just mind a few chickens, and sometimes some people, I was very small, but they ate monkeys, they ate that green one. Do you know that? It looks like a large lizard.
Iguanas?
Yes, well, they call them just guanas. They ate guanas, and they just lived off of
the
what
land
they had. And my parents were The doctor, my mother was well, she wasn't a midwife, but she'd help with children, help the people because they had no skills apart from tilling the land and eating the produce of the field and that sort of thing. So, you saw the different ways people lived, Then you move to another one and they'd be almost like the city. They have nice homes and, well, they didn't drive cars, but they rode bicycles, and you would have the people they plant rice and they'd send their children abroad to study. So, it's entirely different way of life, and you don't live it, but you see how everybody lives, and you don't judge people by what they do, because everybody has their own character. So that was one bit, and you can.
How did it make you and your family feel to be the educators of so many different types of people?
How did what?
How did it make your family feel to be the educators of so many different types of people?
Well, they were privileged, I feel they were privileged to help. They did what the best that they could, and when it was time to leave, it was, real sad, because they became like a family. They were adopted by the people, and the people were adopted by them. So it was breaking up your family and leaving, and you go to somewhere else, and some you never meet again because you don't go back in there. So well, I was very small at the beginning, but later on, you learn to understand what the people are, how they live, and how hard it is, because you're not going to be there all your life, but you see how difficult it is for them to, make their own livelihood out of that. They go fishing, and they're quite happy about it. They go fishing for what they just do what they have to do. And you learn that you have to do what you have to do, and take advantage of whatever you're given, whatever you're taught, and whatever you can learn, you learn it, and you make use of it. So everybody's not going to be having a silver spoon in the mouth, and those people didn't sit in their chairs and rock, Everybody had their chores to do. The children would go, this one has to feed the fowls, somebody else has to go clean the fish, and everybody did what they had to do. Some were lazy, some were not, but, you sitting by as a small child, and you see that is how life goes. And everybody has to do what they have to do.
Did your family run into any type of trouble, I guess I could say, for wanting to for being the people who educate?
No, they were, when I say Indians, it's not the type of Indian that we see portrayed on television. They look like that because a few were still at the stage where they wore the little thing around the waist and nothing else. The men, and they shot the fish with they still used to have the a bow and arrow in some places, but the women and on the whole people came down to the city and came back, and they dressed, want to do the best and want to bring home nail polish and that sort of stuff, or buy earrings and that, but they had no way. That was just extra. They had no way to go with it. It's just that they see a little bit of the city life and they bring it home with them. But there was no, they were, everything was peaceful. They were sent, he was sent to educate the people. They were not supposed to be left in ignorance. So he did the educating, and people came in to visit, but not for long. No, there were no hotels and no little houses that strangers could stay in. This is just the huts, or what they call them, the benabs that the people built themselves. And well, we had one. We still had a house. Well, it's sort of the same thing, just a bare one room sort of thing almost. Not flat to the ground, but up on stilts, as you would call them. And I'm seeing it as I'm talking. What did you ask me just now? I forgot.
I had asked if your family ran into any trouble.
Oh yes, no, it was no trouble at all.
So, the government at the time and society at the time was in support of your family educating and reaching out to those who were less privileged?
They sent him there.
Okay.
That they were schools that belonged to the school system. So they sent him there, and when they thought that he had done what they wanted him to do, he would move from there, and they'd send somebody else to do something else. They can handle the school then after he had fixed it. So that was how we moved from one to the other.
Do you have a saying you live by, or your own certain philosophy on life?
Or what is my philosophy? That life, my mother always said, life is too short for, holding grudges and not doing the things that you want to do. She says that life is too short to fret and quarrel over things. Our life is too short to not do the things that you should be doing. The philosophy is that you remember that life is too short. So if there's something you want to do for somebody, hurry up and do it. Because life is too short. And if somebody is annoying or fretting or getting you angry, or life is too short for you to bother about it. Just do what you have to do, the right things, because life is too short. You want to look after a project, or you want to do something good for somebody else, don't say you're going to do it next year, or you're going to sometime or the other I'm going to do it. Do it, because you don't know what is going to come in between, and you wouldn't get to do it. Life is too short.
Do you feel you've lived your life by those words?
Oh, sometimes I miss it. And this is why I remembered it just now. Sometimes you do it, but sometimes you put off. It's just like, don't put off till tomorrow what you can do today. Sometimes I do put off a little, and then, oh gosh, if I had known I would have done this because so and so, I would have stopped somebody from hurting or somebody from doing without, or help somebody from getting, advise them before they get into trouble, help them out quickly before something bad happens. That's the song. That's, you promise to do a favor, do it. You want to clean up something, do it. Don't leave it too long, or you might not get to do it. So.
Were you aware of any worldly events going on around you as you were growing up?
Any what?
Worldly events?
Worldly events, you mean like the war and stuff?
Hold on, I'm gonna shut the door.
Oh. It's still on?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes, you were asking me about the worldly events. Yes, we were aware of what was going on all over the world, We have newspapers, and we had the radio, no television, which was a good thing. But we had the radio, and we would hear what was going on. And well, in areas we came to being involved was that, people left during the war, came over and joined the RAF, and some people came abroad and, to study, but they got involved in nursing and so forth in the war. And sometimes we would go to what we call the seawall, because we lived on the coastline, which is below sea level. So we had to have a big wall done mostly by the Dutch. And we'd go to the seawall, and we see out the Atlantic Ocean is outside of, on the north of South America where we were. So we would see the big ships out, and they were involved in the whatever it is they were doing, but they were out there, and that was all we saw of the war. And we had plenty of shortages. We couldn't get flour, we couldn't get this, we couldn't get things to eat. We could no longer buy cutlery, carpets, so, all the essential stuff you couldn't get to buy because the ships couldn't come in.
And this was during World War I or World
War II. No, World War I was really long before me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. And yeah, but we had enough. We had enough food. Just that we didn't have imported.
Did you meet your husband?
Oh gosh, at school, I was a pupil, about 15 years old, and he came back to be an assistant master. We call them masters instead of saying professors, and so this was at high school. And the funniest thing is that I sort of saw him before. I mean, this is going to sound like a fairy tale sort of thing, but I dreamt one night that I was an Indian. I had long black hair, and I had on just one garment, like a a cotton dress, and I was coming out of yes, a sort of a, well, it was a hut. It was down to the ground, just a shell over the ground. And came out of that, and there was an older man, but I think he was like a grandfather, his age. And I came down from there and walked down to, you come down a sort of, the hut was up here, and I came down here and went to, there was a sort of a stream there leading to a river here, a wide river. I came down there, and he came, an Indian fella, mixed, sort of, not mixed. He was like a red Indian, big and brown and strong, and he came out of this, from around the corner in a boat, and went to him to the boat. He came out, and we were just going to get together, chat, laugh up or whatever, and the old man came around and saw him. Well, apparently nobody was speaking or saying anything, but apparently he was not allowed. So I signaled to him. He just dropped himself back in the boat, lay down flat in it, and I pushed the boat off with my foot, and it went off along the stream until it got to the river. Meanwhile, I came back as if nothing happened, and there was a woman there. I dropped my dress, and she picked a bush from some leaves from a bush, rubbed it up in her hands, rubbed me down, and then took this water. She had what we would call a mug, a big mug, and she poured it over me, and apparently she was some sort of attendant or something, but she put it, and I bathed. And that was all of this dream that, that I remembered. And I dreamt it then. And during school one day, you go into the class. No, I went to school. You go into the school, and all the masters were standing around in the office, the first office. And there was a new one. And this is probably a years or a month or months after, I can't remember. But there was he standing there, this same sort of Indian man that I saw, dressed, not naked now as he was, but dressed, stitcher. And I sort of looked at him and I said to myself, why he had to come now? What is he doing here? Sort of, this is, as if you were enjoying yourself at a party, and there your father comes to say, well, it's time to go home or something like that. This is serious now. And I just turned around and looked at him and went on the way up the stairs, and he turned and looked at me. And nobody said anything, but I sort of knew that he is connected to me, This was my friend. This is who. Well, it didn't, it never, nobody, I didn't put it into words, but I know that was him. And while he would teach in school, he used to teach French. And when he would teach, sometimes after a while, he would write on my book, write little notes on my book, and marking my work, and he'd write a little note at the bottom. And I would ignore it, I wouldn't say anything, and afterwards I had a little friend in school, a girl, and I would say, look what he wrote. And he would giggle over it, but I wouldn't say anything to him. And he used to be like a guard. He would walk behind us. He would come and walk with me. He'd walk behind us when we left school to go home, and sort of see me home. But what we did at first was go somewhere else. We didn't go straight home. We'd walk another street. And he wanted to see where I lived, so we would walk somewhere else. And we did that for a good while until, he said, well, okay, I had to go home. And so I went straight home, and he knew where we lived. But I thought it's so funny, that Well, not funny, but I just knew that that was him. And we, after years, you know, I was good at algebra. I don't know why, but he'd come home to help me. But we never became friends. He'd come to visit my sisters, who were bigger than I was, older. And it was, but I still knew that that was my friend. But he is visiting my sisters until I got old enough. And he was always like my father, like a guard, you know. He was just 5 years older than I was. But he was, and all the years, he was being like that until we got married. So I thought I said, I hope she's not going to ask me that. Look. Yes, but that's how we met, in school. At my, well, not at my desk. I came up and saw him there. But you know, I never told him. I never told him. Afterwards, I had a dream again. Twice I had it. Before I met him and afterwards. And, you know, he never he never proposed to me or said, well, you know, let's get married or we're going to get married. We just knew that we were just friends and we're getting married. And that was, you know. So it not. And for a long while, we were friends a long while because I was 15, so there was no hurry. He was there seeing that if I had to go anywhere, and I felt very safe with him. If I had to go anywhere, he was there. You didn't have, nobody had to call him. So friends used to say, oh, you know, she's here. You know that he'd leave home and come right there. And, well, we were married and lived for 42 years. And then he died about 13 years ago. So, but we were good companions for all this time.
And you never told him about your dream?
No. I don't know why. I never told him. Look, sometimes I would say to him, you know, you were a big Indian. But, you know, the same, he was part Chinese, but I don't know, he had the big cheekbones, you know, like an Indian. But he wasn't that brown because he was Chinese and his mother was Chinese, so he was lighter than I was. But I just thought, you know, sometimes I think of it and I said, that is what you call your soulmate or something like that, because...
What is your ethnicity? What is your ethnicity?
I'm black. Just, the whole thing is we all mixed. You know, a Chinese would marry black, or Indian would marry Chinese or Portuguese. You know, so many different races there that you intermarry, and you never try to say, well, we have names for them. If an Indian marries, when I say Indian now, I mean East Indian. Indians from India, if they marry black, those children are called Douglas. So if this girl is a Douglas, you know that, well, her father or mother is Indian and the other one is black. If it's a Chinese married black, it would be a Chinese Douglas, you know. And you know, that's sort of, well, white or marrying black, they would be, oh, you know the name for that, but I forget.
Mulatto?
Mulatto. And, well, the others it's too many mixtures sometimes to find a name for it, but those particular ones, you know what you call them by that.
So since there were so many mixed people, was there racism?
Not really, not until the politics came in. When this PPP sort of wanted to. There were more Indians, I think, than blacks. Well, the mixtures really. When you say black, they count all of us, but the people who came from, say, you have a few Syrians or you have a few Chinese, well, a lot of Chinese and Portuguese. Those weren't the major races. The major ones were the Indians and the blacks. And they tried to put the two races against each other, set them against each other. And the term was avant-garde, that you won each race for itself. And there were a lot of incidents, like people, the Indians, put a bomb or something in the school bus where children came from the estates down to school in the city, and somebody put a bomb. It was the Indians. They put a bomb in the bus and killed a lot of kids. But the point is that those kids were not really just black children. They were some of the people who were, people who came from abroad and had lived there working on the estate and sent the children down. So it wasn't sensible. And what was the point in killing? Well, the point in killing them is to start something else. So then the black people would kill some Indians, and then, it would go on like that until what, I don't know. But that happened at the time. And you would live next door for years. And the house we bought, the person who built it lived in the country, and among Indians, East Indians, and they were friendly, close friendship for years and years and years. And when all this nonsense started, the Indians came in, and he thought they were friends, but he ran for his life, but he didn't get into his house. They had him up against the fence and they killed him with a pitchfork, and they were his friends before. But that went on. You had to be very cautious then not to go in the country by yourself. And we had a little bit of that, but after you live for years moving together and intermarrying and all of that, that couldn't last. The enmity couldn't last. That was just superficial, brought in by the politics, but that went. I mean, in between you would have somebody, one individual not liking their children to marry, marry black, or to marry, or the black people don't want the daughter to marry an Indian feather, there are incidents like that, but on the whole, it wasn't, there wasn't much racism.
And this was all in South America?
Mm-hmm.
This was all in South America?
Yes. Guyana is at the northern coast of South America.
And you mentioned Georgetown?
There are 3 Guyanas, you know that. British Guyana, Dutch Guyana, and French Guyana. They were each colonized by the 3 different
And you lived in the British?
Mm-hmm.
Our hour is almost up. Is there anything else you would like to share?
If what?
Since our hour is almost up, I only wanted to take an hour of your time.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you'd like to share, or a story you'd like to tell, or anything of that sort? Anything at all?
Well, I don't really know what you want. You've got to tell me what you want me to say.
You told me so much. There's a lot. I have a lot to go by. Perhaps you can share your experience when you first came to the United States.
Mm-hmm. Well, when I first came, I used to come, before I came to live, my husband used to have leave to we go to London every 4 years. 4 years or 3 years, I can't remember which, but the expatriates used to have their leave, so as he was doing the same job, he got his leave. And we used to go up to England, and as my sisters were here, living in New York, we would stop there, spend a month or so, and then return home. Maybe not a month, because sometimes his leave was just 3 months. Once we spent 10 months in London, which was a long time, and then came here and spent 2 years. We go by boat and we go back home by plane. When I came here first, what I noted was a difference between the American people and the English, especially when I came to live here. When you come on a holiday, you go to the stores and you shop, and you're with your family and everything's all right. But when I came to live here, I found that people were not as friendly as the English people. I found people would, I was at where was the housing, the first house, the university housing. It was, you know where that is?
Mm-hmm.
Where we were in there, I was with Joanne. And I found people very silly, I would say. I was sort of invisible because I used to walk with the children, like see there was a baby, take her out for a walk. And you would see people coming, and as at home or in London, you would wave and say howdy or something. And I found some people, a lot of people, they look at you from afar, and when you get near, you think you'd say hello or something. You're invisible. They don't see you, or they see right through you. And I said, after a time I got accustomed to it. Or you go to a store and you're waiting to be served, and a lot of people are being served, and you are left until you have to say, well, I was here a while, would you? And I suppose then when they decided, oh, she can talk, so then I get attended to. And in London, on the whole, I find that, except for rare instances, 2 instances that stand out in my mind. I was on the bus, I put my hand down. I had to stand because the bus was full. And I put my hand on the back of a seat, he's swaying up and down. And there was a woman, she came in and she put her hand down. And when she looked down and saw that her hand was near to mine, but my hand wasn't even, I wouldn't say that I was even that on her, because when you go I was there a few months, and after a few months in cold London, you lose your tan. So I don't know what was the matter with her, but she snatched her hand away because her hand was next to mine. And I said to myself, said a few dirty things in my mind, or, but on the whole, people who have been abroad, visited the West Indies, or at least been abroad and been somewhere else, they don't act like that. They're they're nice and helpful and everything, but ignorance makes people behave like that. So that was something to another once. I went to get a job, and I couldn't. There was a big building. I had to find the room, and I saw two girls running down the stairs, and they stopped and looked at me. So I said, "Can you tell me where to find such and such?" And those girls burst out into peals of laughter. They just looked at me and they laughed and they laughed and laughed. And I to myself, I said, well, it's little, I wouldn't say because thing, but I thought they were real nasty because, there was nothing wrong with me. I was good looking, I was pretty, I was dressed better than they were and everything else, and I didn't see what was the need for that. But I just realized that they realized I'm not British, I'm not white, and what am I doing there? Something like that. I can't understand what it was. But as you go out, that is something. Once I can't say that we have traveled, but we've been to a good few places, because when you come up by boat we go to Trinidad by plane, and then you go up to London by boat, and every day you stopped at an island, and you travel, you come back, you spend a day on that island, and then you travel, you come back for dinner and travel by night. So you're not seeing anything by night, and you go to sleep, and the next morning you wake up at a new place. You spend the day there again, and you meet lots of people, and you see, a little bit of their lives for that day. And I thought that was really, really an advantage and a privilege that I got. We took 10 days each time traveling, and for those 10 days we stopped at 10 different places, saw 10 different sets of people, and ate and mixed with, and saw just how people lived for that day. And that was good. I enjoyed the traveling by the boat, but when we came back by plane. It's really an education when you get a little bit of traveling, and you meet people, and nobody can really tell you, because we used to think that, oh, the people from England, they are all highbrow, and they speak so, they would say, deep, that you can't understand. But those people who we thought were speaking so, had such an accent that you can't understand, they were Cockneys, and it is sort of, well, I don't so broken English, it isn't exactly broken English, but they were not the highbrow people that we thought they were. Because when you go there, you see exactly what the people who used to come down to us to be the bosses and whatnot, they were not the educated people. So you see how they live, how they treat the people, the lower class and the uneducated class. They don't give them as much education as we had. We were a British colony, and we, as a colonist there, we got a higher type of education than their own people in London. So, as I say, you learn when you travel, when you see some people, then you realize, oh, I can recognize them, that these people are this class, and these people work this way, or these people are, well, I can say not say that they're not nice people, but you can pick the people out, and know exactly what type they are really. You understand what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's it's nice to travel. Well, we didn't live in London, but we stayed enough time. First time I said we stayed 10 months, and after, but I like the British people. I like American people that I get to know, but on the whole, people here are more snobbish than you would think the British people are. You see, well, at least that's how I found it. I've been going to church since we were here, 19 years, 1981. And if I met 10 people, not even that, I mean, no talk to them, no, and I think I'm very friendly. But you say a prayer, the front of the prayer book, that they welcome people and they are there to help and to form a nice community, and a lot of nice flowery words. And you hold hands during the Mass, and you're one family and all of that. And when you put your hands down, that's it. You go outside after Mass, you go to say prayers. Not go to say prayers. They have coffee, lemonade, donuts, and so on. And you help yourself. But everybody's in a little clique, and you say howdy to somebody and they say, hi, how are you? And maybe about 10 people would say something to you, hi. Sometimes would say hi. But that's it. Nobody talks to you. And I was watching, even now, there was a big man and his son, and they look foreign to me, and this little boy maybe just came in because he's very, very pale, and he with his son in church, and he explaining to his son and making a song, sing the hymns and all of that, and he joined in everything. And when he's finished and they go out to have the donuts and the coffee, well, I don't take it anymore because I don't take sugar. So sometimes I take a piece of donut. And everybody hasn't been seeing me there for 19 years because it's a university place, and people move on. Mm-hmm. But the residents here, big grown-up people are here. And hardly anybody talks to you. So, I say that American people are, well, what would you call it? Snobbish? Unfriendly. Well, at least here, I find, I should say it like that because this is just one spot in America, but another little, what you call it? It's not a village. Yeah, I suppose so. Another section, I went where my sisters live, I went to church there, and most people came out, and well, they know that I'm their sister, and they shake hands, and there isn't even that here. So that's the conclusion I come to. Must be wrong or bad. I suppose if you get in a room with people, they'd be nice. But I don't know what they're scared of. Everybody stands like this and they talk a little to each other, and they have a donut and they have their coffee. But that little grouping is supposed to be getting together, making friends and chatting and all of that. They don't do it. Don't forget it's all day, but it's just to you. So I don't know. We need to. If you do that there, and everybody does it somewhere else, or it would make a difference. When I came first, I said, you know, they should take half of these people on a trip to Guyana and let them see how so many people, so many races, and there are poor people, there are a few that the Indians, some of the East Indians who have rice field and planting rice, and so they're relatively rich. They have money and can have big houses and 10 servants and stuff like that. But they should move. People here should move about and see people, because I can remember when I was little, I would see people, children, living in the city. Where we were living was fine. We'd have water flowing when the yards are flooded, and we can walk through it and go to school. We leave the street and go through the muddy yard. It's not muddy, it's full of water, flooded, and go to school and all that, and water's there. But these children in the city, their yards were muddy, and they put strips of wood across to walk to get to their houses, and some of them we always had food to eat, but some of the children had on sort of shredded clothes, you know. The clothes are torn and not mended, and they probably could have another dress inside, but that is how they were. Some were naked, running about with no clothes on. Well, the weather is hot and they weren't suffering. But what I'm saying is that I've been in all places, you know, different places where children are real poor, really. You walk in the mud, some children, they have things to eat, but they don't have utensils, you know. They're eating things out of an old plate, you know, and stuff. I mean, they don't have all the niceties, and they're living, and they're all right until they get, you know, they grow up and they can go to school and study and get more. But it does make you understand that is not important. You don't judge the children and the people by what they don't have, not because they don't wear fancy shoes or they wear little shreddy clothes. They're not different if they get a good education or they find something to do, and sometimes their hearts are real big. They don't have, but they will give. So you need to move about, meet people, see how people live, and don't judge. You see how everybody live, and you realize that people are people, not just because somebody has a big house or they have golden hair that they are better. It's just what you do, how we live. Right?
Mhm.
So I'm glad, I'm privileged that I was able to go all over, see different people, see different things, and realize that people are wonderful. Some are bad, but there's a reason for some. But you don't jump to conclusions about people right away, See and think first that maybe they didn't have parents who took care, or they missed an opportunity or something. But it's good to see and know first, then you can understand. That's it.
I think that's a perfect place to end for now. Thank you very much.
Okay.